What would you do if a respected scientist went into the forest to debunk werewolf legends, and what he found was far more terrifying than any myth? What if I told you that Dr. Marcus Kane, a man who spent 20 years exposing supernatural hoaxes, discovered something so impossible that it changed the fate of humanity forever? This is the real story of a man who thought he was hunting monsters, but instead found himself face to face with an ancient evil that threatened to destroy both our world and theirs. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. And if you want to discover what lurks in the shadows between science and legend, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon, because what you're about to witness will make you question everything you thought you knew about reality. What Dr. Kane found in those Montana mountains will shock you to your core. Dr. Marcus Kane had built his career debunking supernatural myths. At 42, he was one of the world's most respected cryptozoologists, with a reputation for exposing hoaxes with cold, hard facts. His Stanford laboratory was filled with evidence from 20 years of research, fake Bigfoot prints, phony lake monster photos, and countless samples from alien encounters that turned out to be weather balloons. But the letter that arrived on that rainy Thursday morning would change everything. The yellowed envelope contained a desperate plea written in shaky handwriting. Professor Kane, I'm Elena Vasquez from Pine Ridge, Montana. For 6 months, something impossible has been terrorizing our town. 3 people are dead, torn apart in ways no animal could manage. The police have given up. The FBI thinks we're crazy. Please come. Time is running out. Attached were photographs that made Marcus nearly drop his coffee. Massive claw marks gouged deep into trees, dinner plate-sized paw prints, and tufts of coarse gray-black hair that looked canine but far too large for any known wolf species. Against his better judgment, Marcus booked a flight to Montana. Pine Ridge was a forgotten town of 847 people. Main Street consisted of Murphy's General Store, the Pine Ridge Diner, an ancient gas station, and the Moonlight Tavern. Marcus checked into the Mountain View Inn, where the nervous desk clerk kept glancing over his shoulder. You're here about the attacks, aren't you? The clerk whispered. I'm investigating unusual animal activity, Marcus replied diplomatically. The clerk laughed bitterly. I've lived here 40 years, Professor. No animal could do what's been done to those poor souls. Sheriff Tom Brennan was equally skeptical when Marcus introduced himself. Another expert, he said wearily. Wildlife biologists, park rangers, state university hotshots, they all leave with the same conclusion. Large predator, probably bears or wolves. But you don't believe that, Marcus observed. Brennan pulled out crime scene photographs that made Marcus's scientific skepticism waver. The victims, Hunter Bill Morrison, teenager Sarah Chen, and elderly Ruth Palmer, had been killed with incomprehensible savagery. The wounds were too precise for random animal attacks, too savage for humans. All 3 attacks happened during the full moon, Brennan continued. Witnesses described something that walked on 2 legs but had the head and claws of a wolf. That evening, Marcus interviewed Elena Vasquez, the teacher who'd written the letter. She was rational and articulate, not prone to fantasy. I saw it 3 nights ago, she said, hands wrapped around cold coffee. My car broke down outside town. While walking back, I heard something crashing through trees. At first I thought it was a bear, but then it stepped into moonlight. Describe what you saw. Like a wolf, but wrong. Too big, too intelligent. Walking upright like a man but with wrong proportions. Too much muscle, arms too long, claws instead of fingers. And its eyes. She shuddered. They weren't animal eyes. There was intelligence there, and recognition. Like it knew exactly what I was. That night, Marcus made a decision that would have horrified his colleagues. He would spend the night at the most recent attack site. If something was out there, he'd document it. If it was a hoax, he'd expose it. He packed night vision cameras, motion sensors, a flashlight, and, despite his skepticism, a loaded rifle. The attack site was a clearing 3 miles from town where Ruth Palmer had been killed while gathering firewood. Marcus set up his equipment methodically, then concealed himself behind a fallen log. The forest was unnaturally quiet. No insects, no small animals, no wind. The silence was oppressive, as if every living thing had fled. At 11:47 p.m., his motion sensors triggered in sequence, showing something large moving through the forest with purpose and intelligence. Through his night vision scope, Marcus saw movement in the shadows, something much larger than any wolf, moving with predatory stealth. Then it stepped into the clearing, and Marcus's world shattered. The creature was exactly as witnesses described, and worse. 8 feet tall, a horrifying hybrid of human and wolf. Its massively muscled torso was covered in dark fur that absorbed moonlight. Elongated arms ended in almost human hands with razor-sharp claws. But the head made Marcus's breath catch, lupin but far too large, with a muzzle full of ivory daggers and mobile ears constantly swiveling for sounds. Most terrifying were its intelligent yellow eyes that swept the clearing with obvious purpose. The creature moved through the clearing, sniffing the air and examining where Ruth Palmer had died. It was clearly intelligent, possibly more so than a human. Then its head snapped up, and those yellow eyes looked directly at Marcus's hiding place. The creature knew he was there. Had known all along. With impossible speed, it bounded across the clearing in 3 massive leaps. Marcus fumbled for his rifle, but the creature was standing over him before he could react, its massive form blocking the moon. The smell was overwhelming, wet fur, musk, and something like copper pennies. When it opened its mouth, Marcus saw rows of flesh-tearing teeth. But instead of attacking, the creature spoke. "You're not from here," it rumbled in clearly distorted English. Marcus's scientific mind reeled. This challenged everything he understood about biology, evolution, life itself. What are you?" Marcus whispered. The creature tilted its massive head. "I am what your kind fears most. What you've spent centuries trying to forget. But more importantly, Dr. Kane, I am what you came here to find." It knew his name. "The question now," the creature continued, settling back like a dog, "is what you're going to do with what you've found." Marcus reached for his camera, but the creature's paw stopped him gently but firmly. "No pictures. Not yet. First, you need to understand what you're really dealing with. And for that, Dr. Kane, you're going to need to see the truth behind the legend." The creature stood and walked toward the tree line, then looked back. "Are you coming? Or will you spend your life wondering what secrets these mountains really hold?" Against every survival instinct, Marcus found himself following the creature into the dark forest, leaving his scientific equipment abandoned in the clearing, useless relics of a worldview that had just been destroyed. Following a creature that shouldn't exist through moonlit forest wasn't covered in Marcus's graduate coursework. Every rational part of his mind screamed to run, but his researcher's curiosity drove him forward. The creature moved through dense undergrowth with impossible grace, its massive form flowing like water, barely disturbing leaves. After 30 minutes of climbing into increasingly rugged terrain, they emerged into a vast natural amphitheater surrounded by towering pines and granite cliffs. What Marcus saw there shattered reality even further. Dozens of them gathered in the clearing, a society of creatures in various stages between human and wolf. Some were fully transformed like his guide, others looked almost entirely human except for glowing yellow eyes. At the center stood a figure commanding obvious respect. Tall, elegant, with long silver hair and beautiful features marked by predatory grace. When she turned those luminous eyes on Marcus, he felt like prey being studied. "Dr. Marcus Kane," she said, her voice carrying impossible depth with musical quality. "The famous debunker of mysteries. How ironic that you should discover our greatest secret." "You know who I am," Marcus said. "We know many things, Doctor. We've watched your kind for centuries, learning your languages, studying your customs. Some of us have lived among you, passing as human when necessary." She gestured to the partially transformed figures. "We are not mindless beasts from folklore. We are something far more complex, and far more dangerous." "You're a separate species," Marcus said. "An evolutionary branch parallel to humans." The silver-haired woman laughed like wind through winter trees. "Still thinking in limited scientific terms. Tell me, Doctor, what do you know about our victims?" They were killed by your kind. Yes, but do you know why? Bill Morrison was a poacher who'd killed 3 of our cubs, planning to sell their pelts to collectors believing werewolf fur has magical properties. Sarah Chen was part of a group deliberately poisoning our territory. Ruth Palmer was collecting our hair and blood samples to sell to pharmaceutical companies wanting to synthesize our regenerative properties. Marcus felt reality shifting. They weren't random attacks. Nothing we do is random. We have laws, customs, justice. Those humans threatened our existence. In your society, that's called self-defense. A younger creature stepped forward. Why tell him this, Elena? He's just another human who'll betray us. Elena, the silver-haired woman, raised her hand. Because this human seeks truth above all. And we have a problem requiring his particular skills. She led Marcus to the clearing's edge, where moonlight revealed dozens of crude stone grave markers. For the past year, our people have been dying, Elena said quietly. Not from human interference or natural causes, but from something else. Something that shouldn't exist even in our world. A sound echoed through the forest that made every creature freeze. A howl deeper and more primal than any wolf, carrying notes of intelligence and malevolence. "It's back," whispered a young werewolf. Elena's expression turned grim. "Dr. Kane, you wanted to study the impossible. You're about to meet something even we don't understand. Something that's been hunting us." The howl came closer, accompanied by sounds of something large destroying everything in its path. Unlike the werewolf's fluid movement through the landscape. "It appeared about a year ago," Elena said as werewolves formed defensive positions. "We thought it was one of us who'd lost control, but it's something else. Something wrong. It kills without reason, not for food, territory, or sport. It kills for joy, and it's getting stronger." A massive shape burst through the treeline. If werewolves were wolf evolution, this was evolution's nightmare. Nearly 10 feet tall, its body was a grotesque fusion of animal parts that shifted and changed as Marcus watched. Its head was sometimes bear, sometimes wolf, sometimes something with too many teeth and coal-burning eyes. Its limbs were wrong, too long here, too short there, assembled from spare parts by a mad god. Worst was the intelligence in its eyes. This understood exactly what it was doing, and took pleasure in the terror it caused. "Alpha," it rumbled like grinding stone, focusing on Elena. "Tonight you die. Tonight I take your pack." "You are not welcome here, abomination," Elena replied steadily despite obvious fear. "You're not part of the natural order. You should not exist." The creature laughed like breaking glass. "Neither should you, werewolf. But here we are." It lunged with impossible speed. Elena barely dodged, transforming from human to werewolf in seconds. The 2 apex predators clashed in the clearing center, but Elena was outmatched. The abomination was faster, stronger, completely merciless. Within minutes she was down, bleeding from wounds that should have healed instantly but remained open and festering. Other werewolves tried to help, but the creature moved through them like a scythe through wheat. Its claws could wound their supernatural flesh, its bite carried poison preventing natural healing. Marcus watched in horror as the seemingly powerful pack was systematically destroyed. Then the creature's attention turned to him. "And what are you, little human?" It stalked toward Marcus. "Are you their pet?" "I'm a scientist," Marcus said, surprised by his steady voice. "I study things that aren't supposed to exist." The creature paused. "A scientist? How interesting. What would a scientist make of something like me?" "I'd say you're an impossibility. Even in a world where werewolves exist, you violate every biological law I know. You're like a cancer on reality itself." The creature's eyes flashed with pleasure. "Cancer. Yes, I like that. I am a cancer on their perfect world, eating it from inside out. I am what happens when barriers between worlds grow thin. What crawls through when no one watches the boundaries. What will remake this reality in my own image." It raised a massive claw to end Marcus's life when Elena's voice rang out. Wait. He's not part of this. He's just a human who stumbled into our world. All the more reason to kill him. But he could be useful, Elena said desperately, buying time. He understands both worlds, human science and our transformation. Perhaps he could help us understand what you really are. The creature considered this. You think your pet scientist could solve the mystery of my existence? I think he might be the key to stopping you, Elena said quietly. Then by all means, let him try. It will make his eventual death more satisfying. You have until the next full moon, scientist. Figure out what I am, discover my weakness, save your friends. It will be amusing to watch you fail. It bounded back into the forest, leaving destruction in its wake. Marcus knelt beside Elena. We need to get you to a hospital. No hospital can heal wounds like these, she said weakly. But there might be another way. In our archives, we have records going back centuries. If there's an answer to what that thing is, it will be found there. Where are these archives? Deeper in the mountains. A place humans have never seen. But to access them, you would need to become one of us. Marcus stared at her. You mean? I mean exactly what you think, Dr. Kane. The question is, how badly do you want to save both our worlds? The decision wasn't really a decision. Kneeling in the blood-soaked clearing, Marcus understood he'd crossed a line with no return. The rational world of academic research was now as distant as childhood. If I do this, Marcus said quietly, will I still be me? Elena managed a weak smile, her wounds slowly healing. You'll be more yourself than ever, and completely different. The transformation doesn't erase who you are, it reveals who you could truly be. And the price? You can never return to your old life. The change is permanent, and the hunger for the hunt, the wild, the pack, it never fully goes away. Marcus looked at the devastation. 3 werewolves dead, others bearing wounds that would take days to heal. Somewhere in darkness, the abomination grew stronger. What do I need to do? Elena struggled to sit up. The transformation requires the bite of an alpha during full moon, willing acceptance of change, and consumption of something bridging human and wolf worlds. She revealed a vial filled with liquid starlight, substance glowing with internal luminescence. This is the blood of the first, she said. Essence of the original werewolf, preserved for over 1,000 years. Once consumed during transformation, it ensures the change is complete and permanent. What is that thing that attacked you? Elena gathered her strength. We call it the Devourer. It's not from this reality. Every few centuries, when barriers between dimensions grow thin, things slip through. The Devourer feeds on supernatural energy, which is why it's hunting us first. When it finishes with werewolves, it will turn to humans, and humans have no natural defenses. The archives contain information about stopping it? Possibly. If there's a way to send it back or destroy it, the knowledge will be there. With Elena's guidance, they traveled deeper into the mountains to the archive chamber, hidden behind a waterfall. Passing through was like walking through liquid electricity. Marcus felt spread across multiple dimensions before reality snapped back. The chamber was impossibly vast, filled with more texts than imaginable. Shelves carved from living rock held books in dozens of languages, some decidedly non-human. Crystal formations provided eerie illumination. In the dimensional codex, they found records of similar creatures. The last encounter was in 1847 Romania, where a similar being hunted 3 werewolf clans before being stopped. How was it stopped? Marcus asked. 7 alpha werewolves performed a banishment ritual. They succeeded but all died. The ritual required sacrificing their life force to power the dimensional gateway. How many alphas do you have? Only 2 now. Myself and Vladimir from Eastern Territory. That's not enough. No. Unless. Elena, read further. There's reference to a hybrid ritual. In extreme circumstances, a human with transformation potential can be changed to temporarily possess multiple alphas power. What does that mean? Instead of normal transformation, you'd become something unprecedented. Not just werewolf, but a bridge between human and supernatural reality. You'd have power to perform the banishment ritual alone. The catch: no one who's undergone the hybrid ritual has survived. The human mind and body aren't designed to channel that power. The transformation would give you strength to save both worlds, but would almost certainly kill you. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Through the chamber's mystical windows, he could see the full moon approaching its zenith. How long would I have? After the transformation? Before? Perhaps an hour. Maybe less. The power would burn through you like wildfire. Marcus thought of his empty apartment back in California, his sterile laboratory, his comfortable but meaningless academic existence. Then he thought of the devourer loose in the world, the carnage it would cause if it reached human civilization. There's really no other way? None that we've found. Marcus picked up the vial of the blood of the first. In its swirling depths, he could see reflections of things that might have been memories. Wolves running under starlight, humans transforming, ancient rituals performed in sacred groves. Elena, if I don't survive this, I want you to know, discovering your world, learning that impossible things exist, it's been worth everything. My whole career, I've been looking for proof that reality is bigger than we imagine. Tonight, I found it. You found more than that, Elena said softly. You found purpose. As the full moon reached its zenith, they began the ritual. Elena's bite was precise, mystical, flooding Marcus's system with transformative energy. The blood of the first tasted like liquid starlight and ancient forests, like every wild thing that had ever lived. The transformation was agony and ecstasy combined. Marcus felt his human limitations burning away, replaced by strength, speed, senses beyond imagination. But more than that, he felt connected to something vast and primal, to the fundamental forces that shaped reality itself. When it was complete, he stood 8 feet tall, his body perfectly balanced between human intelligence and lupin power. But unlike the other werewolves, energy crackled around him like visible lightning. He was a living conduit between dimensions. How do you feel? Elena asked. Like I'm burning up from the inside, Marcus replied, his voice now carrying harmonic overtones that made the air itself vibrate. But also like I can see everything. Past, present, future, the spaces between worlds. They didn't have long to wait. The devourer came as the moon began to wane, drawn by the massive surge of supernatural energy from Marcus's transformation. So, it rumbled as it entered the chamber. The little scientist chose to become something more. How delicious! Now I can devour both human knowledge and werewolf power in one meal. You're not devouring anything tonight, Marcus said, and his voice carried authority that made reality itself listen. The battle was brief but cosmic in scope. The devourer was immensely powerful, but Marcus was something it had never encountered, a being that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. When the creature tried to phase between realities to escape, Marcus was already there waiting. Drawing on knowledge from the ancient texts and power from the hybrid transformation, Marcus began the banishment ritual. Reality tore open around them, revealing the howling void between worlds from which the devourer had emerged. You cannot! The creature screamed as dimensional forces began pulling it back toward the tear. I am eternal. I am inevitable. You're a mistake, Marcus replied, pouring more of his life force into the ritual. And mistakes can be corrected. With a final surge of power that felt like his soul catching fire, Marcus completed the banishment. The devourer was sucked back into the void, and the tear in reality sealed itself with a sound like thunder. Marcus collapsed, his body already beginning to burn out from the massive energies he'd channeled. Elena knelt beside him as his enhanced form began to fade. Did we do it? He asked, his voice becoming human again. You did it, Elena said, tears streaming down her face. It's gone. Both our worlds are safe. Good, Marcus whispered. Through the fading supernatural senses, he could feel dawn approaching, could sense the forest beginning to wake. Elena, write this down. Document everything. Someone needs to know what really happened here. I will. I promise.